Have you ever thought about trying a new marketing strategy and wondered, will this one work for me? Let me tell you something. There is no such thing as a marketing strategy that does not work. However, there is the thing that some marketing strategies will work better for you specifically than others. Think about it like a shirt. Probably seen one where you saw it on a model and it looked so amazing. So you bought it, you ordered it, you were so excited to try it on, and totally different look. It's not that the shirt didn't work. It looked great on the model and that was the truth. It maybe was that your body type was a little bit different or it just wasn't exactly the best fit for you. Same thing with marketing strategies. So today what I'm going to give you is a fun little checklist to identify what kind of marketing strategy will probably work best for you to help you grow your business the fastest, especially if your goal is to get to your first and consistent 6 figures. So let's start with question number 1. And that is, first we have to get clear on what you are going to sell. And that question is, do you enjoy product creation? Before we can even talk about marketing it, if you do enjoy product creation, then you are probably going to end up doing something where you're wanting to create a lot of different products. If that's the case, what that means is that you don't have to focus as much on lead generation as someone who doesn't enjoy product creation, because we're going to go into that in a little bit, because with a set audience, you're going to have more products to sell them. Of course, you should still be focusing on that growth of your audience, but not so much as the person who says no. So if you said no because you're like, I want to create really one product, I want to make it the best that it can be, and I just want to share with as much of the world as possible. I did that for about my first 4 to 5 years with my first flagship course called Employee to Entrepreneur. And that's all I sold. So when you do something like that, what that means is, yes, you get more time to focus on making that one product super amazing. But if someone has bought that product once, unless you're selling a coaching program where they can renew and continue, and if you're going to do that, then that's great. You have to get good at delivering really great results so people want to renew and continue with you. But if it's a one-time thing, then what you have to do is really get good also at continually growing your audience so that more people want to find you, are able to find you, learn about your product, and buy from you. Otherwise, if you're just sitting there with the same people who know you and selling the same thing to them over and over, you're going to see your sales drop. And we don't want that. So that is start piece number 1. Step number 2 is going to help us figure out how you sell. Because again, you got to figure this out before we can talk more about getting out there in front of people and really marketing yourself even fully. And so that question that we're going to use is, are you a systems person or not? So let me explain what I mean. If you are a systems person, you like things just so, you love having everything systematized, essentially you are like me, you might want to create a automated funnel that essentially sells your product every single day for you with an automated sequence of content, emails, webinars, videos, all of those work. It doesn't really matter specifically. I'm talking more about the overall system, so that you can just kind of set it once, really get it tight like a real good system, and let it run and do its thing and make sales for you. If that's not you and that sounds like the most boring thing in the world, then what's going to be better for you is essentially to still have some basic systems where you can, once people find you, bring them onto your email list and communicate with them. But aside from that, you're probably going to want to split your time more on half of it, of course, on lead generation, or a good amount of it, but also a good amount of your time on just creating content so that you are able to consistently and regularly get content out there that shares what you have to offer and have people connect with you a little bit more organically versus having that automated funnel. So that's the second question on this checklist that I have for you. Now we get to focus more on how to market your business depending on your personality and your strengths and your preferences. So the first thing I'm going to ask you is, do you enjoy connecting with people? Like, do you really get charged up and excited by talking to others, thinking about that, and just sharing you and your life and everything you have to share with other people? If that answer is yes, there are going to be a few strategies that you are going to really enjoy. The first is social media. A huge part of social media is, yes, creating really great content, but also creating it from a place of sharing more about you, what you believe, more insight into your personal life, behind the scenes, just things like that. And so if you enjoy that, social media is going to be great for you. It's going to help you connect really quickly with your ideal clients because they're going to be able to see more of you and get to know you a lot faster than a lot of other options out there. Something else that you're going to want to consider in terms of how you grow your audience and your business is potentially finding lots of potential business partners like affiliates. I have one client who is a serious people person. He loves connecting with others, doing business deals with others, and he hates the system stuff. And so what we did was we figured that out, and then we said, okay, well, what would be really fun for you to do? Okay, it'd be really fun for me to connect with other people in my industry and do deals together. And in this case, the deals are writing content for each other's email list or social media accounts and having their audiences basically cross-pollinate. And so we identified a list of potential affiliates who would be a good fit for his product, but not competitors to it. And then he started reaching out to them, building these relationships, and then doing these deals. So that is a really powerful way to go if you already love connecting with people. Something else you might want to do, depending on what you're selling, if you're selling a higher end coaching or consulting service, you probably want to do some sales calls, right? You get to talk with your potential clients, you get to really get to know them, and again, have that connection. So those are all things that you can be doing, and I'm kind of blurring the lines between marketing and sales to give you a bigger picture overview, but I think you'll forgive me for doing that. And those are things you're going to enjoy if you enjoy connecting with people. So for me, if you're like me and the answer though is no, I really like cool people, but the thought of having to just connect with people all the time and having my business depend on it, frankly, feels so overwhelming and tiring because I need a lot of time by myself to recharge. Then that's not the way you want to go. I frankly, as of recording this video, have not posted on social media for I think maybe like 6 months, and it has been amazing and freeing. And it's great that I'm able to do that because I chose strategies to grow my business that didn't depend on me having to do those things like use social media. And so what I did was I really focused, like we said earlier, on the systems, right? So I knew I didn't want to have to depend on connecting with people to grow my business. So I did the systems things, the how you sell. And then I got good at also more systematic things for scaling my business, for getting in front of people that again did not require me to connect with them. So some of the examples are, for example, I got really good at paid advertising. Paid advertising, you get to put in money, you don't have to really quote unquote talk to people, and it's a system about, okay, how are my ads doing? What are the numbers? How many people are coming in? How do I tweak this, right? It's again, very systematic. I worked on my funnels for my sales systems, like we talked about, and then I got really good at writing emails. So email marketing. And that's because, like I said, I love sharing and creating content. I don't necessarily need to talk to every single person as I'm doing it and engage with them like you want to do more on social media. And so I focused on the strategy that worked best for me. And of course you can engage with email marketing. You don't need to as much though, and really double down on it. And these days, frankly, that drives like 95% plus of my business. The benefit to that is also it can be automated. You can write your emails way far in advance, reuse them, and it's really just a beautiful thing. So giving you a whole bunch of things here to think about depending on what kind of person you are and how you like to connect with others. The next question I have for you is going to help you scale big if you want. And that question is, do you have a strong money mindset and a true desire to scale big and fairly quickly? Because if that's the case, and notice all the criteria that I mentioned, if that is the case, and let me add a caveat that you have a bit of experience, you've made some sales, so you know what you're doing, you've got money in the bank, because I don't want anyone to go around thinking that I'm giving kind of irresponsible advice, never. then you might want to look into using paid advertising. For me personally, when I scaled my first seven-figure business to 7 figures in the first 11 months, a large reason I was able to do that was because I really doubled down on paid advertising. It's a lot more scalable than a lot of other instances, like with social media, for example. There's no guarantee that the more you post, you're going to grow faster and faster and faster and faster. You could kind of make that argument, but even if you say post 1,000 pieces of content in a relatively short amount of time, there's no guarantee that it's going to directly correlate into a certain audience growth for you. Whereas with paid advertising, again, there is variance, so it's not perfect. But nothing is. But it's a lot more certain where once you know what you're doing, okay, if I spend this much, I'm going to grow my audience by this much, I'm going to make this many sales, and so my business is going to grow this much. So I had all of those things, and I really focused on it to scale this business in its first year to 7 figures. So that's something to consider if you want to grow fast. And there are other ways to do this. If you scale affiliates, for example, and you are quickly getting a large number of good affiliates and they're promoting for you, then you know, okay, when an affiliate has this audience size and they promote me, I usually make this many sales and grow my audience by this much. So I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to either do it myself or hire someone to help me with this. And I'm going to just go out there and get this many affiliates to back into whatever number I want to get. There are other ways to do this, but those are 2 of the most common ways. The next question I have for you to really be thinking about if you prefer growth or if you want to have more profit initially and you want to have a little bit better work-life balance and you're okay growing at a more quote-unquote chill pace, is that what you prefer? Right? So what do you prefer? Do you prefer what we just talked about, or do you prefer, I'm going to still grow really well, but I want to keep a little bit more profit. I want to make it a little less stressful. I want to have more time away from my business, and I just want to make good money and then be able to spend time with my family or travel or do other cool things. Then in that case, you are probably not going to want to do that so much. Some things that would be a better strategy for you would be, I have one client who's coming to mind. She was in a similar position. So she liked the funnel. She was a very systems type person too. So we set up a funnel for her. And then she wanted to grow while also just enjoying her life as well. And so what we did was we identified that she could be really successful if she pitched to media outlets about her product and the content that she had to share. And so if she did that just a few times a month, each time she got featured in the media, she would be able to see an influx of audience growth and sales. And so it was a really good balance where she was able to systemize the sales so she didn't have to spend too much time worrying about that piece. And then she was able to spend all her work time, the majority of her work time in her business, really on growing her audience through a few key strategies so that it was, okay, I'm going to do these things this month. I'm going to grow. I'm going to, do the sales. It's going to be more automated. I'm going to support my clients, of course. And then the rest of the time I'm going to chill. So that is one way to go. Another way is if you want to grow a little bit more organically, you might want to look at, again, referrals, right? You might want to pitch the media like we just talked about, or you might want to connect with podcast interviewers and get yourself interviewed on their podcast by sharing the knowledge that you know with their audience, and then having their audience find you as a result. Or again, looking for affiliates or not simply, but also growing your client base and simply letting, as your client base grows, more and more of your clients who are very happy with what you have helped them with refer other people to you. And so really doubling down and focusing on those more kind of organic growth strategies. Then the final one, and this is definitely a more chill one, it takes a more upfront investment, but is worth it because as it grows, it's constantly growing for you. It's going to just drive more and more growth if you are just putting in just consistent time because it really builds up and it drives really high quality people to you. Is to focus on SEO, where you are creating content on your website that specifically helps people who are using Google, and who doesn't use Google nowadays, to search for you and what you have to offer when they're looking for help on that topic and finding you, and then joining your audience and then buying from you. I have to say, I started, like I mentioned earlier, I built my audience and my business initially using primarily paid advertising. These days, I use all of these strategies in some amount. But but I also don't do all of them myself because I do have a team, right? So also knowing when to balance what, depending on what you personally prefer to do and can do best to grow your business the fastest, and then having the resources to outsource and have people help you grow your business even faster by having them do the things in your business that they are the best at. And so that's a whole other topic, but I did want to mention that. And so as I mentioned, a few years ago, I started investing in SEO. And like I said, it took a little bit of time. It took a few months before we started seeing some traction. But over time, over the past few years, it has just grown and grown and grown. And these days, it is the highest profit, highest overall revenue traffic source in my business. And so that's definitely something to consider as well. But there are pros and cons, as with everything. Now, as I mentioned, this doesn't mean that you can't do all of these at some point. I do. That's why I'm able to share these experiences and recommendations to you. But that does not mean, and I definitely do not recommend doing all of these or even most of these when you are earlier on in your business. Frankly, choose one or two that are the best fit for you based on the checklist questions that we went through, and then double down on them, because just one or two is all you need to get to six figures, especially if you are selling a coaching program or a series of course, or one course or more. And so if you are thinking, yeah, that sounds great, but how do I do that? I do have a great video for you on just the few things you need to do to get to consistent 5K to 10K every single month. That's all it takes, just a few things. It doesn't nearly have to be as overwhelming as it might sound or feel. So if you want to know how to do that, go ahead and click on the video on this screen, and I will see you over there.